Welcome to the TNT Effect, the Athletes Podcast. I'm Dr. Tiara, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Certified Athletic Trainer. My guest today is a husband, an educator, a former student athlete, mental health advocate, activist, and so much more. Please help me welcome Mr. Miles Williams. What's good,
Oh,
Miles?
what's going on? What's up? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I like that hoodie you got on.
Oh, I appreciate it. Gotta support women's sports and grateful to be able to have a platform to be able to do so.
Absolutely. I mean, we need it, especially now more than
Yeah,
anything. We need,
yeah.
we need men to support women's athletes.
Sure.
Speaking of athletics and everything, let's start there and unpack all the different roles and different titles that I just mentioned. So,
Yeah.
let's talk about the student athlete. What was your introduction to becoming an athlete?
Oh man. So if you ask my parents, they probably would say from birth they had a ball in my hand or something. At least as soon as I could start walking, I was playing some type of sport, whether it was basketball, baseball, football, golf. I was playing, and I've been doing that since I was little. Still find ways to be able to try to be an athlete now that I'm a retired athlete, and I feel like my whole life I've been just loved watching sports, loved being able to play sports. My dad always jokes about when I was like 2, I would come to one of his like rec league basketball games, and I would just sit there and I would watch. Like, I'll be on the bench and I would just watch. Like, other kids would be running around and playing, doing different stuff, and I would just be studying the game. And so grateful to be able to be surrounded by sports my whole life, and it's been a big part of my identity.
Now, you played a variety of sports.
Yeah.
Why did football stick?
Um. Honestly, I didn't play football until I was in high school. So in my 9th grade year, the first time I played football, I was actually my best sport or my most natural sport was baseball, and unfortunately in high school it became a thing where I was the only black kid playing baseball on the team, and it didn't feel as comfortable as playing basketball and football with my friends. And so I realized that I was good at football early on. I like to be able to hit people. I like to be able to be aggressive and let my emotions out in that way. And football I realized I was good at it, and scholarship offers started coming. I realized I could go to school for free playing it, and I think that's kind of why I ended up sticking with it.
So, time out. You started playing in high school, and then you ended up with a college scholarship. Like, a lot of kids, they tend to play a sport for a number of years, and then the scholarships start to come. But I guess by you being so athletic or playing all those other sports, it just kind of like the transition from one sport to the next one was easier for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I'm a strong proponent of kids playing multiple sports. I think you can learn, you learn so much about how to interact with other people being in team sports. But I think also all the skills are transferable. So in basketball, like the condition that you do in basketball is going to make you a better condition for football season. Um, I remember coming from football season to basketball season, it was always a struggle being able to go from one to the other, right? But being able to have certain different lateral movement that I used during basketball would be able to transfer into football and vice versa. Um, in baseball, being able to, like, the patience that you have to have in baseball, like that's just stuff that rolls over to life, And so um, I'm grateful to be able to learn from each sport, be able to pick certain things from here, and it ultimately made me a better athlete and ultimately a better football player.
Okay. All right. So scholarships rolling in. What schools were looking at you?
Yeah, so I had a lot of like small D1 offers my senior year. I got hurt my junior year, and so unfortunately was the opportunities for me to be able to play at really, really big schools like I felt like I deserved were limited. A lot of those offers were getting sent to people early, but my largest offer was from University of Pittsburgh. I had offers from the staff at University of Michigan was at Michigan at the time, and then went to Pittsburgh, and so they offered me there. But I was scared. I was 17 years old. I didn't want to go too far from home. I grew up in the Carolinas, and my biggest concern was I want my family to be able to see me play. Right? I wanted them to be able to be there. And my dad was like, no matter where you go, we're going to be there every game. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't believe it, but I was scared. But basically, I was scared. And so settled for offered. I wanted to play right away. Coming out of high school, and so went to Elon University, small D1 school, and it was a great fit academically. It was a great fit athletically. I could play as a freshman, and I felt like I could really grow there. And so wanted to be. It wasn't too far from home. We were playing in a conference that was based pretty much in the Southeast at the time. And so my parents and family and friends could all come see me play. And so I was like, you know what? That's where I want to be. And ultimately, it worked out and was the best opportunity for me. But I always wish that I would have seen what it was like to play in the ACC or play one of the Power Five schools.
Like a Florida State. Would you
Yeah,
go
I wouldn't have.
ahead?
See, like Florida State. That I'm not a Florida State fan, but if they would have sent me some money, I would have pulled up. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna
Okay, I'm not gonna hate. I'm not gonna hate. That's all right. But in lieu of all of that, okay, scholarship, full scholarship, correct?
Yep, full scholarship.
And what were the requirements to maintain that scholarship?
Yeah, so our coaches always reminded us that every year your scholarship's up for renewal, and I remember each year like that day that we went to our coach and he gave us our offer letter, and you see $60,000 on a piece of paper and you're signing your name. Like that was a special moment, because it's like all this hard work is ultimately, one, paying off, but two, like we had to, one, is stay academically eligible. So we had to have, I think we had to maintain like a 2.5 or 2.0, something like that at the time. When I was playing, we had to obviously do what we need to do on the football field. We also had to be good people. A lot of my friends that I came in with my freshman year didn't make it to senior year because they were making poor decisions. Academically, weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. On the field, weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so, year in and year out, like it was a grind to make sure you kept your scholarship, and gratefully was able to do so.
So academically, what kind of student were you? What was your major? Did you have one of those majors where the advisor just said, "Hey, take this," so you can just pass? Or
Nah,
did you have something that was, legitimate, like actually worth something that you were interested in pursuing outside of sports?
yeah. So I think it started for me in high school. I've always been a good student. I was AP classes, honors classes already, and so when I went to college, I was, a lot of those skills that I learned in high school transferred over. And we also had like a lot of academic support as student athletes. So our freshman year, we had to have like mandatory hours of study hall where we had to be there, I think like 6 hours a week or something crazy before like outside of practice and other things. And so um, I was always a good student. I enjoyed learning. I still enjoy learning. If I could go back to school now, I would go back to school. And so I majored in human service studies, which is essentially social work. But I minored in psychology and African American studies. Really passionate about Black folks in my community, but also love like psychology and people and thinking about how people work and connected. And that stuff has always been a passion and just joy of mine. And so I wanted to go in education as a student athlete, but because of like teaching hours and like service hours, I wasn't able to do that because of ball. And so fell into human service studies, and I'm grateful that I did that. Ultimately got my master's in social work, and like those things kind of all just like married together pretty well.
Let's talk about all of that you do now. So what is
Yeah.
your role now as an educator?
Yeah, so I'm a director of student culture for pre-K through third grade. I'll be pre-K through fourth grade starting next year at a school here in the city. And what that entails is basically everything outside of the classroom that you can possibly think of. Um, I'm handling. So I don't have a classroom per se, but I'm in charge of our diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum, our social emotional learning curriculum, disciplinary certain things, basically anything that you need to do to help run a school, and make what makes a school feel good and feel joyful and feel safe and inclusive. That's part of my role, and I enjoy it. It's not easy work. It's part in the school year. In April, it's a grind for sure after spring break. But I love working with kids, and I feel like it's something I'll be doing for a long time.
Now, do you incorporate some things that you learned through athletics in what you do now as well?
Oh man, every day. Like there's not a day that goes by that my experience as a student athlete or as an athlete hasn't shown up. I mean, the discipline that you have to have, the focus, the structure. I mean, I think one of the areas in my life right now where I feel like I'm struggling is I don't feel like I have as much structure as I did as a routine as I did when I was a student athlete. And so I like I have to like make my schedule. Hey, wake up at this time, work out at this time, eat at this time. Like, and those things really like help me. I feel like we all crave structure. Like kids, my young people, my students, they crave structure, and so they need to know, hey, this is what I'm doing at this time. This is what I'm doing at this time. And if you throw them off that schedule, they're thrown off, right? And so I think that's a big part of it. I think the way that I like to carry myself, I try to carry myself in a way that's um, similar to when I was a student athlete. Like you know that you have a platform, and your life is bigger than just you. You have people who are accounted, looking up to you. You have people who you're accountable to, and I try to make sure that when I'm working at work, at least it feels like a team atmosphere. I like to use a lot of sports analogies to be able to kind of keep me in the game in terms of being a student athlete, but also I think like there's so many lessons that you learn from playing a team sport, and those are applicable in business, education, and just life.
Absolutely. All of that. And going back, you mentioned you had an injury your
Hmm.
junior year of college.
In high school and junior year in college, actually, so both.
Okay, so what type of injuries did you sustain during those times?
Yeah, so in high school, I had a lot of concussions. I think I had my junior year, I had three. I had one early in the season, one like I think two like mid season. And they were just like, "Hey, look, you're a kid that one is smart, but two, we want to be able to see play ball at the next level and know that you can. And so let's just sit you down for the rest of the year to make sure that like your head is straight, everything's good, and then come back." I remember a neurologist. Have you seen Friday Night Lights, the movie?
Yes.
Okay, so you remember there's a scene where Boobie Miles is hurt and he goes to the doctor, and he goes to the doctor in Midland, and he was like, the doctor told him he's out for the year, and he's like, "You from Midland, right? You from Midland? Like I can't play football. What you mean? Whatever, right?" So I went to a neurologist, and he told me not to play football, and I couldn't play football anymore. And me and my dad went off just like that. It was like, what you mean I can't play football anymore? What I can't what? You from Midland? And so uh yeah, so my junior year in high school, that was a really tough moment for me. And I think that's kind of when I came to terms with the fact that life is so much more than just being an athlete, and that I might have to be a student and walk on somewhere, unfortunately, if I want to be able to play at the level that I want to play at and know that I'm capable of playing at. And so I had to realize early on, like, that it's so much bigger than just ball. And so my junior year, that in high school, that definitely was a big moment for me.
And then your injury in college.
College, yeah. So in college, I tore my labrum in my right hip my junior year, and so out for the year. Was able to redshirt, so I got a fifth year eligibility, and so then I played my junior season, or which would have been my senior year, academically, and then I tore my left hip that next season. I played through it that season and got it surgery in the off season. So I have two hip surgeries under my belt before like 21. So I I blame that on the reason I didn't make it to the NFL. That's not the main reason I didn't make it to the NFL, but I'm gonna stick with that for right now.
Stick with that one. So, how did
Yeah.
each of those injuries affect you from the mental standpoint?
Oh my goodness. I have so much respect for student athletes. Period. People just don't understand the amount of work that takes place to be able to just mentally, physically, emotionally to do what student athletes do. For athletes who have been injured and like had, especially with sustained serious injuries, to be able to come back from that is difficult. And so for me mentally, it was hard, especially the first one. The first one was hard because it was unknown territory. I'd never not played sports before, like, um, and so my identity was kind of wrapped up in I'm a student athlete. I'm the captain. I'm the man. This is what I do. And then to watch my team playing without me, doing things without me, I really was in a bad place. And so I told the coaching staff, I was like, "Hey, like, what can I do to stay involved? Like, I want to make sure that I'm still involved and still feel like a part of this." And so I was able to be a part of the coaching staff. And so I was in the booth, like on crutches, in the booth with the headset on, figuring out what I could do to help call plays, see if I was seeing things that other people weren't seeing. And so that was a helpful way for me to stay involved. But then also, but the physical standpoint, I had to learn how to walk again. Like I had to learn how to run, and that was like a 9-month process. And then I had to do it all over again the next off season. And so that really took a lot out of me mentally and emotionally and physically. But ultimately, I realized once you learn, when you realize you have to learn how to walk again twice, like there's nothing that you can't do, and then, like other things may be difficult, but I think it ultimately made me a lot stronger.
Whew, you were in the training room a lot.
Oh man, I lived there. I lived there. I lived there for at least 3 years of my college career.
Oof. How was your relationship with that staff, the medical staff?
Oh man, I love my trainers. My main head athletic trainer was Michelle. Shout out Michelle. Shout out to you. She took care of me, man. Was like my mom away from home. I was in there at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. I was in there at 12:30 for lunch. I was there at 2 o'clock before practice or before we started watching film. I was in there after practice, and so I was in there with her 4 or 5 times a day. And so we developed a good relationship. So grateful for her and that staff, and honestly, without their support, would not be the person I am today, and probably wouldn't be able to walk and be able to play like I can today either.
Yeah, and talk about some of your the relationships you built with some of the other high performance staff, like strength and conditioning.
Oh yeah.
Of course, the coaches, and I don't know if you had a sports psychologist or nutritionist or anything like that.
Yeah.
Anybody who was involved in making sure you were a successful athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so much that goes into, especially football, into being a successful student athlete, right? You have your position coaches, you have your coordinators, you have your head coach, obviously, who help you be the best person you can be on the field in terms of like scheme and skills, right? But your athletic training staff is huge, and be able to keep you safe, keep you healthy, make sure you're flexible and can take care of your body to the best extent that you can. We had nutritionists who helped with our diet plans and told us what we could and couldn't eat at the dining hall, but also at like fast food restaurants if we're ordering out. That's year round. Our academic support staff was huge in helping us get our books and get signed up for classes that we wanted, and making sure our schedule was the way that it needed to look. And so, I mean, strength and conditioning staff. I mean, I still use some things that our coaches gave us in high school. I mean, in college and high school, as like a foundation for my training now. And so all those things that people do. Chiropractor. I have a chiropractor in North Carolina. Anytime I need to go to the chiropractor, I can always check in with him and get adjusted. And so there's so many things that you learn about yourself, about your body, from support staff, as a student athlete, and it's those relationships are things that you take with you for the rest of your life. And so I'm so grateful for the folks that poured into me and helped me take care of my body.
Yeah, for sure. And now, were you grateful, and did you tell the staff thank you for all of the things that they did? Because some athletes, they kind of take it for granted, or they can be a little nasty to support staff and everybody.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important to make sure that the athletes aren't getting, so high and mighty, right? Where their heads blown up and everything, and they don't necessarily respect the staff or just everybody who's helping to take care of them. So I think it's important for them to learn that at as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah. I mean, from a young age, I mean, I think people need to understand that nothing that we do as people, as athletes, is because of ourselves alone. And so, yeah, you can be as talented as you want to be, but at the end of the day, you're nothing without other people around you. And that's one of the lessons that team sports teaches you, right? Like, you're nothing without the people around you. And so our support staff, as whether athletic training, whether that was from an academic standpoint, whether it was from a finance standpoint, like, they are all integral and us to be able to do what we wanted to do and do it at a high level. And so we have to make sure you express gratitude to them, because a lot of times they're spending, our trainer's in there at 6 a.m. and is there when we're leaving the building at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and then doing it all over again. And then in summer camp, they're in there from 6 a.m. to midnight like we're in there all day, all night, and they're there doing what they can to make sure that we're successful to be able to play at a high level every day. And so you have to make sure you expect gratitude of those people because I mean, and it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
It does. It really does, especially as someone who actually has done that type of work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's a thankless job, you know, like I mean, I guess it's not thankless completely, but it's a hard job, and I can't imagine that our athletic trainer got paid enough for the amount of time and energy she poured into making sure that I was able to, me alone, was able to be able to take care of it, much less the 98 other guys on the team. And so, make athletes out there, make sure you're thanking your athletic trainers and the folks that are around you because you couldn't be where you are without them.
Yes, I agree with all of that. And so once football was over
Yeah.
and all of that, how was that transition for you? Like was it difficult?
Oh man, yeah, yeah. I think in a lot of different ways, but I'll start with the first thing was like I'd never not been an athlete, and I knew who I was outside of being an athlete, but my identity was solely like you're Miles who plays football, you're Miles who did this thing, right? And then you leave college and you go to the real world and you're nobody. Like nobody cares what you did, who you are, where you're from, how many tackles you made, any interceptions, whatever, how many offers you had. Nobody cares about any of that. You're a regular person, and now what can you do for my organization to help us get better, right? And so that was a really tough transition for me. I think that not having that affirmation and validation constantly was tough for me. I think I expressed my emotions through playing ball for so long, and like a lot of the anger or frustration or sadness that I had was poured into like hitting somebody. Like that really was like a release for me. And when you realize you can't do that anymore, it's like, or you have all this extra time on your hands that you're like, what? Who am I? What do I like to do? What am I interested in? What am I passionate about? And like football is one of those sports where you can't just go play football. Like you can go play basketball somewhere, you can go play golf, or maybe even play baseball somewhere, right? But you're not going to go play pickup football, and so that was really tough. And I think it really was the first time that I had to sit there with like my emotions and my feelings and like interest and realize like what am I passionate about? What do I care about? What am I good at outside of sports? And that was an adjustment.
Where does your affirmation and validation come from now?
A lot of it's personal. Or my kids, my students. I think a lot of them like give me that type of the joy and affirmation. I think now that I kind of have this platform, I get it from random people all over the world. And I don't really I get it and like it feels good sometimes. Like everybody likes social media, but that stuff doesn't faze me as much as like no, my wife cares about me and my friends care about me, my family. Um, and my young people that I'm trying to serve every day. And so that's where those my kids especially make me feel like Miles, a football player, all over again. You know, they appreciate in little ways things that I do, and I try to make sure that I'm serving them like I serve my teammates.
Mm-hmm. Now you had your injuries and time commitments, as a result of being a student athlete. What were some other challenges that you faced? If
As a
any?
student athlete,
Yes.
um, so I was a captain twice for 2 years, um, and that's something I took great pride in. I really was. That was something I want. I was in high school as a captain, and so in college to be able to be a captain twice is a big deal. And I think that with that comes a lot of responsibility, um, and it comes with like a lot of ownership. And at the time when I was playing ball, we weren't very good. Like we had a potential to be a very good team, but we lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have. And I think I took a lot of that on myself. But then looking back on it, I feel like I could have pushed my teammates in different ways to kind of get the most out of them. And looking back on that, I regret that, and I don't like living with regrets. and to look back on my career and feel like I could have done a little bit better, I could have done this a little bit differently, um, is a bad feeling. I think in addition to that, I also, on the flip side of that, don't think I fully enjoyed my college experience because I was so wrapped up in like being an athlete. Like I didn't like, I mean, we partied a little bit, but I didn't party that much. I don't feel like I explored uh like the area that I was in college in as much as I could have. And I wish I would have done that a little bit more. And I think I wish I also would have spent more time with my teammates. I think that you kind of get wrapped up in being a student athlete, the girls, and having fun, stuff like that. But like every day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss like hanging out with my teammates in the locker room. I feel like I took that for granted a little bit. And you don't know what you don't know, or you don't know until it's gone. But those are moments that I cherish.
Well, what did you enjoy about that time?
Oh man, there's nothing better than playing ball. Like like Saturday morning, waking up, and you know you're getting ready to go play a game. Like preparing for that. Like we work. So football is different than any other sport, and that you're preparing 9 months out the year for 16 games. Like for 16 Saturdays or Friday nights or whatever Sundays, whatever day of the week you're playing, and you work so hard for those days. And so when those days come, like those are special days. Like those moments, putting your pads on, like running down the hill, like doing all those little things. So well, that was so fun. Like all the preparation that takes place, like mentally, physically, like emotionally, like that's a special feeling. I enjoyed college though. I feel like I worked a lot. I worked hard. In terms of like athletically, but also like academically. I had a great time and a great experience. I think I got the most out of my college experience. I traveled abroad. I did undergraduate research. I connected with professors and people that I never would have been connected with otherwise. And so ultimately, my college experience was great. I really genuinely loved it. Elon did a great job. My little sister goes there now because of how great my experience was. And so um, yeah, I love college. I think that ultimately it was hard. It was a grind by all means, but ultimately it was a really good time.
Talk a little bit about your study abroad.
Oh yeah, so Elon is like number one in the country in study abroad. If I'm not mistaken, I think like 80% of students there are study abroad at least one time, and they're unique in that their athletic program. Every team gets to go abroad at least one time in their career, and so that wasn't the case before I was there. So I kind of got some flack. I kind of got some flack for it when I was there, but we have an interesting time in the year called winter term. So the month of January, it's kind of like an optional term. So if you're a student athlete, it's not optional. That's like our winter workouts. But it's a three week period where you're taking just like one class. And so I took a West African history and culture class until we went to Ghana for 28 days. I think it was like 28 days. And it was amazing. Like a transformational experience for me. Made me think about who I am and the world in such a different context. To know that people thousands of miles away from you have love for you and care for you and feel connected to you simply because of the color of your skin, but also just because like they know that this is where you came from. You know, that was special. And also to be able to see so many different elements of Ghana made me more curious about exploring the world, but also exploring Africa even more. Like the traditional or the ways that we see Africa portrayed in media is completely different than it was in reality. Like we were at the beach, we were downtown in cities. We did see some more rural parts, but that wasn't the majority of our experience. And so it was really nice to be able to have that experience firsthand and then be able to come back and tell my teammates and friends about it.
Man, sports can afford you a number of opportunities that you
Oh,
may not get, if
never.
you don't play sports. So
Yeah, for
that's
sure. And I think that like that part is so underrated. Like I wouldn't be speaking to you right now if I didn't play sports, you know? I wouldn't be half the person that I am today without the opportunity to play ball. And so I feel like I owe everything to that ability to be an athlete, and I'm grateful for that.
That's what's up. So before we wrap things up, what are some things that you would, tell younger athletes who want to play at the college level or play at the professional level? Drop some pearls for them, some gems.
So pearls, I got a couple. First one is, if you say you really want it, like everybody says they want it. Everybody wants to be LeBron. Everybody wants to be like the next Steph Curry. Everybody wants to be all those things. But like, you don't understand the amount of work that those people put in to become the people that they are. Like LeBron's a freak athlete by all means, all world athlete, but he spends $1 million on his body a year, at least $1 million. And that's like food, that's stretching, that's weightlifting, that's massage, that's taking care of his body. And so you gotta, if you say you want it, like you have to sacrifice a lot to be able to do that. There's a lot of times where myself, and you can look up my stats, you can look me up on TV, on online. I was a good athlete, but I was not a professional athlete. And so those people who are playing professional sports sacrifice a lot to be able to be who they are and be able to be at the level that they're at. And so there's going to have to be a level of sacrifice. Not going to be able to go out with your friends on certain nights. There's going to be nights where you have to do homework, or instead of going out with your friends at a certain period of time, or be able to play with your friends a certain period of time, you need to be watching film or studying or doing different things. And so if you're not willing to sacrifice that, just don't say that you want to be an athlete. I think another piece of that is while I want you to work as hard as you possibly can to be the best athlete that you can be, none of that matters if you're not taking care of what you need to do in the classroom. And you have to take care of business in the classroom to be able to afford the opportunity to be able to play sports at the college level and then the pros. And then I think last but not least, I think you got to be a good person. Like you have to be a good person. Like being an athlete is so much more than just playing the sport. It's teaching you about life. And so ultimately everybody's career ends at some point. I don't care if it's in high school, if it's in college, if it's in pro, your career ends at some point. And then you have, let's say your career as an athlete, LeBron's what, almost 40?
Yeah.
Let's say his career ends at 40. Cool. LeBron still's got 40, 60 more years of his life where he's no longer an athlete, that he has to create who is he? He's not just going to sit there and not do anything. Think about Kobe. Kobe was trying to find ways to be able to branch out and do different ventures other than being a basketball player. And so think about what you're passionate about, chase that thing, while also chasing the sport that you love. And if you do those two things and treat people the right way, ultimately you won't be upset with the result.
Drop the mic.
Hey, drop the mic. That's all I got. Hopefully that lands with somebody. If that lands with somebody, then we did our job.
Absolutely. Now, where can people find you if you want them to find you?
Oh, I mean, you're welcome to find me. If you're an athlete out there, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at the Miles Will, MILESWILL. You can reach out to me on Twitter, same name. But yeah, reach out to me on both of those things. Follow us on YouTube. My wife and I have a YouTube channel. It's Miles and Karen. Other than that, yeah, just reach out, man. I love to be able to talk with young people. I love to talk with athletes. I have a unique respect for former athletes and current athletes, and so would love to be able to chop it up and see how I can contribute to somebody else being able to see their dreams become a reality.